Good evening y bienvenidos to a special edition of Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. I'm Alex Hernandez of Noticias Univision Chicago, which airs every weekday morning at 5 and 6. In the last year, more than 13,000 migrants have been sent to Chicago from the border. 6,600 are currently in city shelters. Another 2,000 are waiting placement, sleeping at police stations and at O'Hare Airport. Tonight, in Seeking Sanctuary, 1 year later, we explore migrants' experiences with navigating their new home. We also talk with community organizers about what they're doing to help, as well as local officials on what more can be done. Joanna Hernandez kicks off our coverage right after this.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
This week marks 1 year since the first buses of asylum seekers arrived in Chicago. Since then, we've been covering the city's and volunteers' response to aid the thousands of migrants seeking shelter. And we shared some of those stories with you. Today, you'll hear more about what this last year has been like for them.
Me vas a dar comida de la tuya, hermana.
It's the warmth of a home-cooked meal.
Hermana, por tu esfuerzo.
Eleni Maldonado and her sister share in the comfort of their new home.
El primer día que nos mudamos, sabes que la mudanza siempre está todo, nada está en su lugar. Para nosotros fue como que, wow, o sea, como un buen comienzo.
It's been almost a year since Maldonado arrived on a bus to Chicago, a journey she says came with terrifying obstacles.
En México nos tuvimos que separar por las circunstancias, fuimos estafados. No sabíamos nada de ninguno y cuando
Maldonado's a long way from Venezuela, where she says she operated a sewing business for many years until her country's economic turmoil forced many like her to leave.
Es una aventura. No sabes qué va a pasar, dónde vas a llegar, nada de eso. Y ellos nos ayudaron. Prender la luz un poquito, ¿ok?
Maldonado is talking about people like Yolanda and Harry Peña, parishioners who work in partnership with Grace and Peace Church on the Northwest Side.
Through our own resources, through Grace and Peace Church that provides things like this, you know, the bedding, the clothing, the food for them to have.
The couple opened the doors of their foundation's headquarters, housing migrants since last year, building a team to support asylum seekers through their new reality.
Our gratification is seeing them successful. Successful in that they're able to move into their own apartments, get their jobs, and see them excited.
Their work doesn't stop there. At the 25th Police District, Yolanda welcomes new arrivals with things like medical assistance and basic necessities.
At this particular district, we have about 58, and every day we either get a family in or an individual here.
Iliani Cisea made it to Chicago a week ago with her husband and 2-year-old daughter. They traveled through the Panamanian jungle, Guatemala, and Mexico. They're one of many families sleeping on the floors of police districts, waiting for a shelter.
So, ¿cómo te sientes estar aquí?
Ay, ya me siento mejor, aliviada, ya siento que me va a ir mejor.
But navigating the transition from temporary status to U.S. resident can be a long journey. Isea and her husband say they have to wait until 2025 to make their case in immigration court.
What would you say that the city still needs to do?
They need to start funding the grassroots organizations. If they come and see the work that has been done, you don't have to ask us. Ask them.
Abby, no seas maleducada.
Back at Eleni Maldonado's home, obtaining a work permit is getting closer.
Bueno, ya con el favor de mi Dios, teniendo mi permiso de trabajo, creo que van a cambiar muchas cosas.
In the meantime, she volunteers at Grace and Peace Church, helping others in her shoes start their new beginning in Chicago.
Que debemos de tener, siempre digo, misericordia, porque no sabemos en qué momento de la vida la vamos a necesitar.
As we just heard, from the moment the first bus of migrants arrived a year ago, much of the ongoing work of supporting migrants has been done by volunteers, mutual aid groups, and community organizers who swung into action, providing food, shelter, healthcare, and legal aid for the new arrivals, while also coordinating with local officials. Here to share their experiences are Paula Roa, immigration attorney and legal aid volunteer, Enrique Mendoza, a volunteer with Four Souls Colectiva Chicago, and Pastor John Zaya, senior pastor of Grace and Peace Community Church on the West Side, and mutual aid member Graciela Guzman. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Now, I want to start with you, Graciela. Now, you were chief of staff in the 20th District State Senator's office when the first bus of asylum seekers arrived. How would you describe this year?
Sure, this year has been a whirlwind. I think I remember those initial experiences with community members starting to come to our office, seeking constituent affairs, seeking help getting the city key, trying to locate where their nearest school was, trying to understand pantries and other systems around them. So I think for us, that was the eye-opener about the community of care that is really needed to excel around each one of our asylum seekers that is just trying to find their way around the basic resources that they deserve and that we need to dignify. The ability to eat, the ability to have a place to call home, the ability to have quality health care, and to have a communication that makes that seamless for them.
The basic necessities.
Yes.
And Pastor John, your church was one of the first churches who opened their doors to help hundreds of asylum seekers. Take me through that and let me know, what has it been like under the previous administration to what it has been like now?
Well, like I was sharing earlier, is that we're still in trauma. We're still dealing with folks that are coming in with heavy cases, and it feels like it's still triage. It feels like it's still one after the other. There's no time to breathe. And I would say it's very difficult for any administration to deal with this, especially trying to find some time to really focus and build up. And so I think that when Mayor Lightfoot was there, we were dealing with buses just coming in, and we're just kind of Band-Aid kind of work. I think the fact that with Mayor Johnson, he's taken another step further and trying to help folks in housing and those types of things. But I still think we're in trauma stage. I still think that we're still dealing with issues that we dealt with 8 months ago. It's just very hard, and I don't think we moved the needle much from that perspective.
Would you say you've been trying to build a structure?
I believe so. I believe that we've, from the boots on the ground kind of thing, we receive folks at the end, and we try to establish them, like Gisela and some other folks that we've worked with, Raquel, that we've established them in some kind of way, way where they can focus on the future and not just focus always on the present of needs. And so we've worked with that, and we work with clients that way. And so we're giving them a future. We're trying to give them a future, yeah.
And Paolo, I want to go to you. Your volunteer involvement began this spring of this year. You're now offering legal aid. What would you say are the biggest ongoing legal needs for asylum seekers?
I think right now one of the biggest problems, I would say, is legal triage. They need the ability to be able to do basic things in their legal case and understand about their legal case in order to even move forward for their asylum case.
I do have another question, because when I interviewed some of the asylum seekers at the police station, I was seeing them with ankle monitors. Are you noticing that?
That is a program that is a pilot program from the DHS. It's called FIRM, Family Expedited Removal. And it's a special type of monitoring for families if they don't comply with the monitoring, or they get a negative credible fear interview, then they are subject to expedited removal.
What was that like for you when you started seeing that?
Honestly, it's been new that I've been seeing it now, the expedited removal, the firm cases. In the last couple months, I haven't, even though Chicago is a test pilot city for that. I think it's yet to be seen. I haven't seen the expedited removal happen yet for some of those cases, but TBD.
And Enrique, you've also been volunteering. What has it been like for you? What made you want to volunteer in the first place?
So obviously I come from a family of immigrants, and just seeing this, what I see a lot is like the stories like my parents told, right? And when my parents told me that they came here and they had nothing or nobody to help them out, I wanted to be that person. And I'm sure like a lot of the mutual aid organizers that are, working around the clock to make sure that these people have their basic needs. That's what I see. I see my parents, and I want to be that person. We all want to be those people that we just didn't have when we first came here. So that's a major reason for me, right? And also just because folks just deserve to have access to that, to have access, like Graciela said, to basic housing, healthcare, food, I mean, we're just talking about basic humanity here. So.
And for those who haven't had a chance to volunteer, what would you tell them?
I mean, I think this requires like a huge coordinated effort, and you know, again, one of our leaders like Graciela, others like Claudia, I mean, they have really led the charge, and anything helps. I mean, you don't have to really solve the whole problem, right? Like even if you just volunteer once a month, providing even meals, that would go a long way.
There's still a massive need.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what you're seeing too, Pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see when I've gone to your church and other organizations, there's just piles and piles of stuff. Would you say that's still a need?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the need is always the essential food, housing, all those things. And so I think if a group can handle the initial needs, then other groups can do legal, and other groups can do other aspects of this work. And if we continue, the key is working together. Listen, the reality is that there's no competition for this. You know, if you're in this for the right reasons, right, to serve that particular family and love on them, just pick up one family. I say this to my church. I said, if you can adopt one, just take one and then walk them through. Remember when I think about my uncle who came over and he helped my dad, and then my dad with my mom, and then that's how we got started. And so just be a padrino to somebody.
But would you say that's a hard thing to do? You know, Graciela, I want to go to you. You know, what are your thoughts? This is a different subject. There have been reports of migrants sheltered at police stations being mistreated. What are your thoughts on how the police stations have performed at temporary shelters?
I think we have to understand, right, that the reality is that police stations are not dignified homes for anyone. That's not their intent and purpose. And the ultimate North Star that we need to look to as a city is how do we achieve dignified housing for folks, because at the end of the day, these police stations are not it. That's not their intended purpose. So I think for me, when I think about what is radically changing, what is our present, it means shifting out of the emergency response that we have. It means fighting for resources and making sure that we are one, funding the response that is needed, two, that we are centering dignity and humanity, that we are asking and requesting and receiving the federal resources that allow us to respond to what is occurring in our city in this moment, and then ultimately that we're preserving the self-autonomy that our families deserve. They come here with a vision and a dream, and I promise you the police station is not it. The shelter isn't it. They came here seeking an American dream in the same way that my family and so many others have. And so that's going to require a calling that is bigger than the response that is happening now, and resources that are yet to come from places that, for a variety of reasons, have yet to bring them to the city.
Yeah.
And Paula, what is a short-term fix officials could make that could help migrants with these legal aids?
So I'm going to preface this answer with, I am a career nonprofit attorney. I understand that there's a shortage of immigration attorneys, much more that there's a shortage of nonprofit immigration attorneys, and funding is always an issue. However, there are legal needs that could be met that are short, quick to do, that require information to people, and that also requires smaller things to be able to accomplish to scale up and give this to other people. And this is going to require two things: collaboration from city partners and community-based organizations to be able to accomplish that.
You know, you guys all seem to be doing the work. You've been doing the work for this year. We only have time for one more question. I know we could be talking about this for hours, but Pastor Zayas, what needs to be done now?
We need work permits. You know, you want to relieve the stress? Give them opportunities to work. I guarantee you, if you announce that and they could work, the city would relieve the stress of everything else that we have. Give us work permits, we'll be all right.
Give them opportunities. Just start.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Enrique Mendoza, John Zayas, and Graciela Guzman. Up next, local officials respond to calls for more action.
As money and resources grow thin, there have been calls for more collaboration across various levels of government to meet the needs of migrants. Just this week, Mayor Brandon Johnson was one of a host of Illinois politicians calling on the federal government to fast-track work authorization for non-citizens. Joining us now with more on this issue are Senator State Senator Celina Villanueva, whose district covers parts of Little Village, Pilsen, Brighton Park, and Bridgeport. Cook County Commissioner Anthony Quesada of the 8th District, and Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward. He also chairs the City Council's Committee on Immigrant and Refugee Rights. We also invited the governor's office and the city of Chicago, but they declined to send a representative. But we thank all of you for joining us today. A federal law from the 1990s states asylum seekers have to wait a total of 180 days before receiving work authorization. Here's Senator Durbin on his plea to President Biden to fix this and also the pressing workforce shortage.
Virtually every line of work you can think of, we need these people and we need them now. These people are ready to help and we should give them that chance. I join with the governor, the mayor, and others who say to President Biden, give us the authority and we will move forward to find jobs that will not take jobs away from Americans, but create a better America in the future.
We need to first talk about the work permit, right? And this takes me to you, Alderman Vasquez. Do we know if any of the more than 13,000 asylum seekers have even received one work permit in the past year?
I'm confident some have, but as far as how large or small the number, that's undetermined. I mean, that's why the push is what it is, to make sure that we have a blanket permitted work authorization, whether to temporary protected status or other means, because if not, we're not going to be able to address this issue in the way it needs to be.
Is the wait typically longer than 180 days?
Yes. I mean, we've seen anything about close to a year. You know, it hasn't been a lot of movement. It's also, there's a finite amount of permits that are issued, and that has proven to be a challenge as well.
Okay. Senator Villanueva, if granted, states would be the ones actually sponsoring asylum seekers for employment. What is Illinois hearing from the Biden administration?
To be honest with you, it's been an ongoing conversation. There isn't anything concrete. The reality is we have a Congress that's kind of in a deadlock on a million and one different issues, especially when it comes to immigration. It's been one of the reasons why we haven't really seen any movement on immigration-related issues. So right now, it's just a constant conversation that we're having, but also an urging on our behalf to say we need action on this. We need to see something, because otherwise we have people that are continuously going to be in the same cycle with no answers.
They've just been kicking the can?
Yeah. I mean, it's been, again, a back and forth conversation, but no definitive resolution as to if work permits are going to come, if there's going to be temporary protective status. You know, I think the White House is doing what they can, but the reality is without a Congress that is actually committed to doing something, we're all stuck in limbo.
Do you see this happening within the next year?
Honestly, I don't think that we're really going to see major movement without action in Congress. And we have elections coming up, and obviously those have play a major role on what's going on and how problems are and issues are dealt with. But the reality is we don't know at this point any time frame or when any resolution is going to come.
Commissioner Quesada, do you see this faster work permits being a solution to workforce shortage?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely an aspect. It's not a silver bullet. But what we do know is that we have shortages in many sectors of our economy, and it would be a great benefit if we had an increase in our workforce development by offering our asylum seekers a work permit. Absolutely.
Right. Could you see the state authorizing work status as a good solution to humanitarian crisis that we're seeing?
Absolutely. Of course, we have to provide these opportunities to families in need, and our economy needs it. I mean, we have seen a huge shortage of workers in our economy ever since the pandemic hit. The people who are coming here are very skilled workers. They're very intelligent. They're educated. They're people who know how to work and work in different sectors of our economy. So this is a huge need. This would be a great benefit to our local economy.
As we know and as we all seen, actually, we've seen a lot of pushback on different communities when we talk about shelters for the new arrived migrants to the city. Alderman Vasquez, how do you handle the argument that the city needs to care first for its residents, its citizens, before taking care of the newest arrivals?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the situation and understanding what it's like being in a community where you haven't had that investment and all of a sudden government says they need to establish a shelter, we have to recognize why that sentiment is being voiced. To those who say, someone is being prioritized, The challenge and what we need to do is take care of all. We need to create systems that deal with not only the new arrivals, but also with the existing population. It's why work authorization is important. And I think where I would kind of differ a little is I think it is in the White House's purview to change it. Knowing Congress is not going to move, it's about a president through executive order making the necessary changes, because if we don't have work authorizations now, we're going to continue seeing more and more buses and more new arrivals that are going to scale up exponentially the closer you get to the Democratic convention. And then they're going to label Chicago a disaster, the party disaster, and the president a disaster. So it's in everyone's best interest for those work authorizations to move quickly in order to actually bring real solution to what we're seeing right now.
Right. Let's talk about shelter. How does the city prioritize which migrants are moved to temporary shelters and who stays at police stations, at the airports?
Yeah, I mean, it's less about prioritizing. It's taking in as it's coming. So we're seeing between 80 to 100 people coming in a day. We have about 1,600 at the police stations. So really, it's about building up the system of shelter that could take on the capacity. They're trying to prioritize families first if they can, but there isn't enough capacity right now, which is why we need the work authorization to help decompress, because we're going to continue trying to prop up more shelters. But I fear that it currently isn't enough, and it won't be enough.
We are running short on time, but I don't want to let you go before we hopefully get to answer this question. I want to hear from all of you, actually, about what opportunity you see with the state, the city, and the county, actually, that could collaborate better on this issue. We'll start with you, Senator.
I mean, I think there's a lot of conversations. Obviously, the city administration has changed, which has impacted the conversation that has been existing. Because again, we're celebrating a 1-year anniversary of buses arriving from Texas. And the reality is this is a problem that is being exacerbated because of the governor of Texas, who is shipping inhumanely people to the city of Chicago and other Democratic cities in order to basically try to use them as scapegoats that are part of a larger conversation that needs to be happening nationally. But the reality is more and continued conversations that are already existing, and obviously finding a more long-term solution.
10 seconds.
Yes, the people of Cook County should be very proud of the ways which Cook County Health has been a great collaborator and partner with the City of Chicago and the state of Illinois. We have assisted over 11,000 patients. We have provided over 52,000 visits, prescribed over 22,000 prescriptions to people in need. Cook County Health is the lead medical provider for these asylum seekers, and we're working with our city and state partners to continue those efforts.
Thank you very much. Our thanks to State Senator Celina Villanueva, Cook County Commissioner Anthony Quesada, and also Alderman Andre Vasquez. Thank you very much. Now, Joanna, back to you.
Alex, volunteers helping migrants outside police stations say raising funds is essential to their work. One group of volunteers known as the Police Station Response Team partnered up with a Venezuelan migrant to design the logo on their merchandise that's being sold to raise money for food, clothes, and medicine. The logo for their fundraiser is an image of the Chicago flag with a twist.
Cuidar, oportunidad y abundancia.
Those are the words Winter Navas uses to describe Chicago.
Esta es una ciudad de oportunidades, que el que las sabe aprovechar, surge. El que no, se pierde.
Navas currently lives at the shuttered Wadsworth Elementary School, one of the city's 15 shelters being used to house migrants. He uses a butterfly in his Chicago flag logo to describe a migrant's journey and growth.
Es el único animal que evoluciona. Comienza como un gusanito, después viene una oruga y al desarrollarse una mariposa.
And he designed it with a heart of gratitude. The police station response team met Winter Navas in July when he was staying outside of the 12th District Police Station.
Nos apoyaron con comida, con ropa, con los insumos y enseres que necesitamos para poder pernoctar allí.
Navas was a graphic designer in Venezuela for more than 20 years. But when political and economical hardship hit his country in 2016, he says it got harder to find a job. Navas says Chicago became a place of refuge, of care.
Todos llegan a Chicago por eso. Dan más abrigo y acogen a los migrantes que en otros estados.
As Navas awaits asylum, designing merchandise to raise funds has given him a sense of purpose.
Muchos me vieron la camisa aquí y me dijeron, esa camisa se la dio una persona, esa camisa la vi en otro lado, ¿de dónde te la dieron? Y yo le dije, la hice yo.
¿Cómo te hace sentir eso? Que otras personas
Bien.
aquí en Chicago que están usando
Muy
tu
bien.
playera, lo que tú creaste.
Bien, me llena de satisfacción eso.
Navas says he hopes to get on his feet within the next 3 months and start his own graphic design company. You can find a link to the volunteers' merchandise with Navas logo on our website. Alex, back to you to wrap things up.
Thanks, Joanna. And that's going to be our show for tonight. Be sure to check our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News. And if you're watching us on Friday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Saturdays beginning at 6 p.m. Don't forget also to tune in to Noticias Univision Chicago every weekday morning. I'll be waiting for you. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, I'm Alex Hernandez. Muy buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm whose attorneys embrace a culture of philanthropy and service by volunteering their time, expertise, and guidance to help others in the greater Chicago community.
The PBS NewsHour has a rich legacy of in-depth reporting and strong storytelling.
Only 4 people have sat in that chair before us, and the enormity of this moment is not lost on me. People turn to us because they know they can hear from trusted sources of information and news.
That won't change a bit, even as the faces behind the desk change.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Nabaz.
Weeknights at 6 on WTTW.